All right, welcome to the Health, Wellness, and Community Podcast. Today we've got a special guest, Daryn Allday. Daryn, thank you so much for coming on. Daryn's a very blessed entrepreneur. Him and his wife Michelle own multiple businesses here in Loudoun County. They've got a passion for health, wellness, community development. Daryn's got a special, unique perspective of multiple different industries. So I'm excited to have you on, Daryn, and excited to get started. So thanks so much for coming on.
It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So, Daryn, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, how you and Michelle kind of got started in the entrepreneurial space, and just a little bit more about yourselves' background.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what am I, 51? Might as well start with the old age thing. But I think when I was 20 years old, when I was in college, I had started my first business. It was a athletic training kind of, sports skill development stuff. My degree was in sports medicine, and had a massage therapy license and always kind of loved that health and wellness space. Weird enough, I did some work with the hospital system just to kind of keep things short. Wound up getting a job at the hospital system in the marketing side, the department, and kind of from there, I kind of knew that marketing and sales and like opening businesses and things were something I was going to do over time. So, tried to open a couple businesses in my, I think probably late 20s, failed miserably. Um, no, true story. That's a whole another one we could talk about maybe. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then wound up meeting my wife Michelle. She kind of had comes from a family of entrepreneurs and really just hardworking people, and so we knew that when we moved to Virginia, that starting a home care company is something that we wanted to do. My wife is a physician assistant by trade. My background being in healthcare, sports medicine kind of thing. So that's kind of how we met initially in the medical space. But then when we got married and moved up here, we started a home care company. Fortunately, it was a good timing, I think, in the market, and I think we just had some things really go our way, and it grew like crazy. And we were bought out. We were bought out by a pretty big provider in that space, and from there, Michelle and I knew that we were really going to try to do some work together, right? So
Hmm.
we got into the franchise space, which was a kind of a change for us because we had only been in our own businesses where franchises work a little bit different. But so we got into that with HotWorx. So we opened two HotWorx studios here, and now we just recently opened our first Rush Bowls, which is an acai bowl, fruit bowl kind of smoothie location, and just signed our second lease a couple months ago for our second location of Rush Bowl. So we're all of it kind of coincides with the idea of health and wellness, though.
Absolutely love it. And Daryn, I am going to ask you about those failures. That's something I hope if you're okay talking about
Oh
it.
yeah, no, no. I
Something
mean,
a lot of my entrepreneurs, it happens. Like we fail, that's how we learn. So with the couple of businesses that you tried to start, and then when they did fail, what do you feel like you learned from that? What was the big growth potential there?
so for me, I was working full time as a sales manager for a home care company down in Florida. This is down in Florida. I was living in Broward County, Coral Springs area, and but I had worked with a guy who did recruiting in the healthcare space, and for a long time, and knew him really well. Good friend, had a really good professional and personal relationship. We had a third body person that was a pharmacist, but we all had our own jobs, right? But
Yeah.
we wanted to open a home care company. So we decided to open a home care company in Sarasota, Florida. So a couple things, not I don't live there, although I traveled there for work some. It wasn't something that I could have my hands on and eyes on a regular basis. So we all threw money at it, right? But we all were trying to manage our own jobs and our income streams. And so long story short, we uh we weren't fully dedicated to it. And we got our state license, we got everything was up and running. We actually had revenue, things were going fine, but we had hired a nurse that we trusted, and she wound up putting her name on a lot of the documents. So when we went to make some changes and get, we had to get rid of her because she just wasn't performing and she was asking for some things that were unreasonable. Come to find out, the company had the license was put in her name, not the LLC or the company, but the state license, and we could not get it out of her name. So we would have had to start fresh. So to me, what I learned was know who you're working with, but I'm not a big fan of starting businesses if you can't be fully dedicated to it, right? You
Yeah.
have to, it's got to be your sole purpose. throwing money at something, and I hate to see this, man. I see it in the franchise world all the time. People have other jobs and they get this the allure that it's great to own your own business. Well, if you're working a job and you're paying money and you're going to follow all the turnkey stuff a franchise does, you still got to treat it like a business, man. You can't just hire a manager, follow the process, and assume that it's going to be a profitable business. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to have your eyes and hands and involved until you can turn it over to somebody, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely something that obviously the people we find that, Jasmine and I have the Pure Bars as well, and we see that all the time with the Pure Bar franchise. Why do you, that would be a good question, Darren. Why do you think that's the perception from the outside? People are like, oh, I'm just going to open a franchise and it'll be fun and I'll just it'll run itself. Why do you think that's people's perception from the outside until they get in and then they realize like, oh, wow, I really do have to run this like a small business?
Yeah, I think it's two things, right? Perception is that they have everything, it's turnkey. You're going to be able, you follow their process, you hire. I also believe there are franchises out there. Well, I don't know if Pure Bar is one of them, but that it's more important to sell a license than it is to make sure that that store is going to be successful. So when you're getting on and you're interviewing and you're talking to franchises, make sure that they have your best interest in mind, not just theirs, because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, you're ultimately responsible for it. They're not gonna if you're not succeeding, that they're gonna tell you that's your problem, right? So whether the sales pitch from the salesperson trying to sell the license or the naivety of the person listening or a combination of the two, I just think that really understanding what you're getting into. And plus, man, you got to have a passion for what you're doing. Don't buy something just thinking it's going to, be a moneymaker. Like I would never do sweet frog because I don't like sugar. I mean, whatever, anything like that. I'm not
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to like we're very particular on the thing because we believe in our product and in the things that we align ourselves with. So
What advice would you have on top of that, for anybody that wants to open a franchise? Believing in the product is good. Any other advice you have for anybody that's looking to start a franchise or buy into a franchise?
I think culture of the franchise or matters. You have to
Uh-huh.
be in alignment with who they are and how you operate as a person. I think that makes everything just go that much smoother. Also allows you to be able to have, if you have certain expectations and the franchise has different expectations, it can be hard to work through those, right? And so you just want to make sure that like you're in alignment with the overall expectations, but culture matters, leadership matters. Like you want to know who you're dealing with. There's a billion franchises out there. You can go and look anywhere and find one, and somebody will take your money. But are they going to do what's right for you? And are
Sure,
they going to help you?
sure. All right, so you had a couple learning lessons there in the very beginning, and then tell me about the home healthcare business. How long did you have that, and what was that industry like specifically in healthcare?
So I love home healthcare. I worked in it, I think a total of about 22 years. I got in it as a sales rep, then moved into sales management, got into operations in some pretty big national providers. Um, and then again, like I said, I tried to open my own company, failed miserably. Then when we moved up here, the learning curve was obviously specifically, Virginia was really easy to open in an agency versus Florida. So we knew that we could get open quickly and do that. But it's a very fast paced, rigorous 24-hour kind of a environment, right? So you have to
Mm,
be, and to me, there's two sides of it. There's care and then there's customer service. Most agencies can provide care. We're going to hire a lot of the same level people, whether it be CNAs, LPNs, or whatever that is. Most agencies can find a way to provide good care, but providing good customer service, responsiveness, answering just really understanding and taking in your client's needs in the assessment and making sure you understand their needs and you're not just throwing a warm body out there to take care of them because personality matters and you know I always told myself I'd fail miserably or I'd succeed wildly when we started it in Virginia, and we thank God it was the second of the two. But because I took everything I learned from everywhere I worked, and then I added all the things I thought we could have done better, and that's again that's 20 years of experience. It's not rocket science. It's really experience kind of trumped everything for me in that getting it started, getting it up and running. But it's rigorous, right? You got to answer your phone at midnight. If somebody falls out of their bed at midnight, somebody's got to answer that phone, whether it's you or your nurse. So like for the first 18 months, that was me because my nurses were per diem until we built up enough business. Then we had full-time nurses. And so things start to trickle down and you have the ability to expand and grow. But it's a very fulfilling industry for me because, if when you get the opportunity to see somebody get better, or you actually get a thank you from a family member for letting them go on vacation, or whatever that
Yeah.
is, it's
Yeah.
super fulfilling.
That's definitely the most rewarding thing I tell my staff all the time is like when we have, in the chiropractic realm, when you have patients that are scared to see the chiropractor or they may be an older patient, they're afraid, and you're able to even just change their mindset on it. Obviously, we get them feeling better. We almost change their perception is definitely the most rewarding thing. What was some of the biggest challenges with the home health care that, you saw over the time that you own your private company here in Virginia?
The biggest challenge is always staffing, right? Our product is a human. We're not we're
Yeah.
not a we're not a book. We're not a yoga mat. We're not an acai bowl. We're putting people in people's lives, right? So making sure that the staff that you have enough staff for one that you can meet, you can pick and choose to meet the needs of your client because to me there's care and then there's personality of the client. If I have the best caregiver in the world that nobody could ever beat, but she talks too much and the client doesn't want somebody talking to him, I failed that client. Not because they weren't getting great care, because they just didn't want to be talked to. So understanding, and really, really matching personalities and having the appropriate the staffing pool to be able to meet those needs was a daily struggle, right? We would hire every week, we would orient every week, and if maybe 30% of the people we brought in actually went to work for us because we just you have to constantly go through that. But at the end of the day, that was my biggest success because when you really take, like, we put the caregivers our primary focus, so we did a lot of caregiver focused incentives, the way we took care of our staff, we bonused our caregivers, which was unheard of in the industry at the time. So we never had to put ads out to hire
Hmm.
because word of mouth, caregivers said, "Hey, man, this is a place I want to work." So it made us a lot. Recruitment became easier, but again, if it's not a good match, then you're kind of, you know, you're back at the drawing board with that client.
Sure.
You only get a couple chances to make it right.
Understood. So a biggest milestone for any entrepreneur is selling their business. I'd love to hear kind of how you set yourself up. Well, it sounds like you set yourself up success by focusing on, hiring the right people, having the right, caregivers in your business. But what did you do, when you went to sell your business? How did you set yourself up for success there so that you're able to make it a profitable sale?
So we were not even interested in selling the business. We were actually only 3.5 years old. We were approached by the largest privately held home care agency in the U.S. Um, and the only thing I can tell you that we did right, in fact, we actually had just gone to the bank to get a loan because my goal, like, you set goals, you set long stretch goals, crazy goals. My stretch goal was to have the company name was Stay Well Home Healthcare, to have one stay well in all 50 states in the next 20 years. You set these
Hmm.
crazy outlandish goals, right? So
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
one agent. So then went to the bank and we were looking to expand and open other locations within Virginia because it was just easy. And then I got a random message on LinkedIn from the CFO of the company who wanted to buy us. And so, we spoke, and it was solely reputation. Northern Virginia is a pretty affluent and a good market. So, we're thankful that we were, again, blessed that we were in a market that people could afford to pay for care, right? So reputation is the only thing that drove the opportunity to have a sale. So when they approached us, we started that process. We prayed on it, talked a lot about what that would mean for our family.
Hmm.
Because it's a big, big, because we were still actively growing, right?
Yeah.
We were in a really good growth phase. And so we kind of looked through what those numbers were like, and it made sense to sell. And I
Okay.
stayed on for 3 years with the company who bought us, obviously in the transition and kind of help continue to grow the market. And then that's kind of when, again, when we talked about you have to have your hands on stuff, Michelle was still working as a physician assistant during this time. I had to, with HotWorx, we had hired a general manager. We fell into that idea, franchise, hire a manager. It's going to be really easy. So I
Yeah.
wound up resigning from my position to focus more on growing the gyms, right?
Yeah.
And so that's again, it goes back to the idea you've got to be hands on. We tried the same thing, man. We tried to keep both of our jobs, and and it was one
Yeah,
of those. All right, suck it up. Let's get after it.
for sure. I learned that myself the hard way. I was working as an associate at another practice, and then I was at my current practice for 3 days a week. And you can tell me if you agree or disagree, but it's amazing how once you put all hands in and you dedicate 100% of your time to just one business, how quickly you see it grow. Did you
Yep.
experience the same thing with
No,
with
100%.
going?
I mean,
Yeah,
yes. So when we opened our first HotWorks with the general manager, we had some things that shouldn't have happened that slid under the radar that he was doing. So when we opened, we're supposedly have X number of members we can open. When we opened, we only had about half that number of members because he had basically manipulated the system where he got bonused, but they never joined. So there was some, learning curve there. So when we opened our second store, I opened the second store. So I knew my hands on, I knew exactly what we had. That store grew exponentially faster in the first year than our second store. We actually had to kind of like reboot our second, the first location to get it to where it needed to be. And that's okay, because we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. But it's one of those, like, you have to be hands on. Guess what? There's no one else to blame if you're when you're hands on too, right? So it's your
yeah, yeah,
success and your failures, or you own them.
for sure. And going from that kind of home healthcare business to more of the fitness, industry at HotWorks, um, what challenges or what differences or, was it easier or harder, kind of changing industries like that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest change from going from home care to HotWorks first, and then I can actually talk to how the difference between HotWorks and Rush Bowls are all three of them. But so HotWorks, your reputation really drove it. We operationally provided well, so I never had salespeople working for me. Our word of mouth business grew from whether it be somebody that worked in assisted living told somebody that was a care manager, and we developed, say 10 really quality referral sources. They, at the end of the day, became our salesperson, right? They were the ones referring to us, doing a lot of it. So we had really good relationships in the community. Now, when you go to HotWorks, relationships matter. At the end of the day, if somebody's not going to want to work out, they're not going to join. It's not like you if you need home care, you need home care. There's no getting around it, right? It's not elective in that sense, right? People elect to work out or not work out or make excuses. So every single day, even today, 4 years later, is a sales day. All we're doing is talking to people, trying to understand their needs, and then encourage them and find ways to help them understand why they want to be a member, how it can help them. And people may join, and 3 months later, they haven't worked out but 10 times. You can't force people to be a member, right? This is a choice that they have to make. So it's a very different kind of approach to grow your business. But then you go to Rush Bowls and you have a really good product. If people like your product, they become repeat customers, right? This is not a membership based business where so each of them presents something different. I never sold a product before. Like everything else, like, was, to me, the gyms is still kind of an experience. It's still human based. Home care, any kind of healthcare I was in before, is still like, it's not like you're buying not like buying a smoothie or not. You know what I mean? So learning to understand quality of the product matters so much. Presentation quality, and then customer service is completely different. When you're working with somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you get to know that person. You really can build rapport with them. um, at HotWorks, because of the way we're set up, we may never see our member after they join if they're coming in at midnight, because we're open 24 hours a day and we're not staffed. So we don't always have that ability to develop rapport. At Rush Bowls, we have about 30 seconds when somebody comes in to buy a bowl to build rapport with them, talk to them, answer any questions. And then hopefully, if they become repeat customers, we learn their name, we understand what they like, and then there becomes, so there's each one of them presents a different, I guess, opportunity to really grow your business.
And so with HotWorks, I'm glad you mentioned the product. I love the science behind the infrared sauna, and can you touch on that a little bit? Because we know in the last few years, infrared saunas have been a huge, expanding part of people's recovery and things like that. Was it the science behind it that kind of got you interested in it? I remember Michelle was mentioning to me that they had such good research behind it. And
Yeah, so
was
so
it?
we were obviously always interested in this kind of stuff, right? You know, cold plunges is the new thing. I actually just listened to a guy who read a study out the difference between heat and cold. You and I can talk about that offline, but yeah, the infrared sauna because of the um, it is. I mean, it is one of those up and coming kind of modalities that people hear about, and it perks their ears up. Um, and then working out in that environment. So, you know, our benefit really is you're working out in infrared heat, 125 degrees, and you're doing a low impact workout. So you're going to burn a lot of calories. You're going to get all the health benefits of the infrared heat, and it's hard for people to understand what that means because a lot of people are coming in to try it out. They don't really know what infrared is. They've heard about it. So for us, we try to focus on two simple things. First one is how to just sleep the night after you worked out, because there's a heat shock protein that's released in the infrared saunas, helps with sleep. You know, we can get nerdy and talk about all that stuff, you know, if you want to, but people don't understand. They don't know what to expect, right? They know they go in, it's hot, they sweat. If they're tracking their calories on their watch, they can validate that. That's an objective number, but still, it's just infrared heat. You're just in a sauna, right? At the end of the day. So sleeping, then I can't tell you how many members we've had that came in that had really bad skin, whether it be
Hmm.
acne or any kind of other skin condition. And within, you know, if they're consistent, you know, within 2 or 3 weeks, you can see a change in their skin. I mean, there are so many random benefits to infrared heat, and whether it just be the detox and sweating from the heat,
Hmm.
but we do know the infrared penetrates your body at a different level than like a superficial, like a wet sauna would. So it's just it's like an infomercial is what I tell most people. Like when we first opened so we were the first HotWorx in Northern Virginia. I think the closest one to us when we opened was like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So literally people would come in thinking we were a Korean barbecue called HotWorx. So when people would come in, they would want a menu, and we're like, sorry, we're not that because right, there was no branding, so nobody knew what we were, right? So we kind of had to go cross that bridge as well. But yeah, like now people, the good like somebody that has had some of those benefits where they were having bad problems sleeping at night or they had bad skin, they become our best referral sources because they tell their friends, and then their friends come try out. And so as we, you know, get more knowledge and people understand the benefits of it, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely. I remember telling my clients like it was just the time for me was most valuable. I was so impressed that you can go into a HotWorks and you can be drenched in sweat in like 15 minutes or less. That was crucial to me. I was like, there's no other workout in the world where you can sweat that hard for such a short amount of time, right? And then I even remember, and you might be able to comment on. I think I had, yes. You talked about skin. Like I had psoriasis patient or patients
Yeah.
with eczema and psoriasis. Is it just the anti-inflammatory benefits? Is that why it
No,
helps those types of?
I think there's so much like detoxing and you're like you're saying the sweating for some of the skin and that stuff. I think it really helps. But then like we have people who have Lyme disease or who have what is the MDMFR, whatever that genetic mutation is, where they can't detox mold exposures. Those people thrive in infrared saunas, and it doesn't even have to be the workout. I mean, we have members literally that have Lyme disease, and you can go to a spa and pay $35, $45 for a 30-minute session in an infrared sauna, where you could pay $79 a month with us and come 30 days a month, whatever that is, right? It's like from a cost perspective, if you're really just into infrared, we're a no-brainer. So I have members who have Lyme disease or some other kind of detox or genetic mutation. They literally will come in and sit in the sauna, not work out, have their laptop with them, and work. So they'll sit for 45 minutes, get their sweat, get their teeth, and they're just get and they're, you know, I call that pleasure bundling when you have to do something you don't want to do, so you bundle it with something you want to do, so you get
Yeah,
both, you know. But yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, right? Because somebody like if they don't know what it's like to have where if you're exposed to mold, like Michelle, honestly, Michelle has that mutation. So we go into a house and we're on vacation or a hotel, and she'll get congested really quick,
yeah,
99% chance there's mold in that room. It's just wild to me. I don't have that, right? But
yeah.
to not understand it. So Michelle's been diligent about her time in the infrared sauna. She might be in a sauna right now. Who knows?
Have you guys put one in the house yet? Have you
We
taken
do.
one from
Yeah, we put one a
HotWorx?
couple years ago. Yeah, a couple years ago.
Nice, nice. Jasmine's been on me about getting one because she has that mold thing as well. She knows
Yeah,
immediately when we had a house fire, and the bad part was there
remember.
was definitely mold in the house before, but then when the entire house got renovated, it was kind of nice because she didn't have that mold allergy anymore. So I know she
And you're right,
benefited
it's
from the
hard to
sauna.
understand until you experience it, right? I mean,
Exactly,
Lyme disease.
exactly.
I have a couple of members that were exposed. And I guess I don't know how Lyme disease really works, right? Do you ever really get rid of it? I don't know, right? So the
In my
neurological issue.
experience, I don't, yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many neurological benefits to being able to detox if you're having buildup or whatever that is. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, we bought the sauna after we saw all the benefits of working out at the studios. We bought it for the house, just because it's just more convenient. Plus, when we're at the studios and we're in the sauna, people will knock on the door while you're working out to ask questions. So there's a little bit of a privacy thing, but that's okay. Don't mind helping.
Sure, sure. And so with the HotWorks, how do you guys balance like the summer? Does it get a little bit seasonal? Because I know when I was going, I loved it in the winter because obviously it's freezing outside here in Virginia, but is it kind of a seasonal business? Do you guys how do you handle that? Are you more busy in the winter time and then when it's July and it's 95 and humid out, do you guys see a membership slow down at those times or no?
I don't think it has to do with the temperature. I think it has to do with the time of year. And I'll give you an example. There's like 250 HotWorks in like Texas, and it's hot in a lot of and then Florida and areas in the South where it's generally warm year round, and they're very successful. What I think we found is Ramadan's a pretty important holiday in this area, so people will put their membership on hold for a month because obviously if they're not eating and drinking. So we have members that'll come in and come right before Ramadan, and they'll put their membership on hold. Summer travel here is a lot. We have a lot of families who travel during the summer. So we'll like most of the time what we're seeing happen is people are putting their membership on hold for 1, 2, 3 months at a time. But it's yes, generally during the summer. Now during the winter, like right now, we're obviously getting busier, but I believe it's generally related to kids being back in school. September, October, November, we start to pick up because kids are back in school and parents might have an opportunity to work out more frequently. But like during the summer when we lose or people put membership on hold or they may cancel, right? And because they're traveling or whatever it is, we also have a big influx in college kids coming back. So what we do is we have like paid in full 3 month memberships and we do some sub specials and stuff like that. So while we might lose a handful of people, we have a different clientele coming into town because they're home for the summer with their families. So there's some balance to it, but yeah, there's definitely some cyclical stuff, but I don't know if it's related to the outside temperature or not. I think it's related to trends more,
Right.
like
The
behavioral
school
stuff.
year, the school year is a big factor in
For
our
sure.
business as
Yeah.
well. Okay. All right. Well, let's transition to Rush Bowls and kind of tell me a little bit about what inspired the Rush Bowls business and kind of how that has been. What are the similarities or differences between that and HotWorks?
So, in full disclosure, Michelle had a dream and knew we were going to open up an acai shop. Kind of weird stuff, right? Okay, but
That's exactly why I asked because this is what I
yeah,
wanted you to talk about. So I'm glad you're
yeah.
bringing it
So it's
up.
kind of one of those things. Like, obviously, we kind of have like entrepreneurial mindset. Like, we'll sit sometimes like with family and just random ideas will come up and we'll just draw up business plans and come up with company names and never do anything with it, right? It's all just kind of
Yeah,
fun and
yeah,
games, just kind of how your brain works. But so she woke up and we had talked about it right before COVID about doing something similar, but then when COVID hit, the food industry kind of got destroyed. So we just never even pursued it. And then she woke up one morning, she's like, "Hey, we're going to open up an acai shop." I'm like, so I say in my mind, okay, well, we don't need to do a franchise. Let's just do our own thing. Let's
yeah,
let's let's learn and fail miserably for 2 or 3 years because it'll pay us off in the long run later, right? Because franchise fees and things like that. And she's like, "No, we have 3 kids. We need to find somebody that we like." That's when I talked about culture earlier, the culture of Rush Bowls. The founder, probably he's probably if I were ever to work for somebody again, he'd be the perfect person for me to work with. I just love working with him as a franchisee. He's somebody I could work for, if that makes sense, as an employee. But so culture was important. So we went through all the different franchises out there. Chose Rush Bowls, for culture for one, but their product, no added sugars, no added fillers, no nothing. Everything is as fresh as it can be. We knew that just because with having kids, certain foods, like our oldest daughter, we think has an aversion to like red dyes. So dyes in foods and things like that. When she was young, she had some real bad behavior stuff, and you could always see it. It was after watching a movie and eating a bag of Twizzlers, or going to the grocery store or the gas station and getting a strawberry icy, like that red flake. We could almost pinpoint what was happening. So, like for us, a product that we're going to put in our body had to meet requirements, right? So we don't carry sugar in our store. We have no sugar in our store. It's fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. We'll use agave if we need to sweeten something, or honey, and that's it, right? So it's super low, like our calorie content. People don't believe it. They're like, "Oh man, that's a lot of calories." I'm like, "No, you're going to the wrong place." And when our average bowl is 300 350 calories for a 20-ounce bowl. I mean, it's a big, or 16-ounce bowl. It's a big bowl. Um, so like that was really important to us. Because if again, you have to like what you do, you have to believe in what you're doing. Again, going back to the idea of starting a franchise, if you don't believe in it or really understand, if it doesn't align with who you are, I would just say don't do it. So
Sure.
I know like Jazz
Well,
loves Pure Bar, right? That's one of like that's her thing. She loves it.
yeah.
Didn't she
Yeah.
coach, or does
Yeah.
she coach or something like that as well?
She does. She's on the corporate ranks of Pure Bar now. She's Pure Bar owners committee, everything like that. So she's
She
got
loves
direct
it, right?
access to, yeah, she absolutely, and that's why she does so well at it. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right. If you don't love it and you don't want to be in it 100% all the time, it just don't do it, right? So
yeah.
she absolutely loves it. What about the culture you felt, when you met the owner of Rush Bowls, or the CEO? What about the culture was it that attracted you to Rush Bowls franchise?
I think flexibility and openness. They obviously they have standards. You got to fall within. You got to follow certain standards and make sure that everything's company approved. They have a brand that they need to keep in place. You don't want to go rogue on that kind of stuff. But if you have an idea, like the CEO is available. I mean, I talked to him on a cell phone last night because I had a question about something. He loves to be involved. He loves ideas. He's like, franchisees have better ideas than we do because you're in it on a daily basis. So, like, I'll give you an example. We sell something called Rush Bites. They're just balls. They're peanut butter, banana, chocolate chip rolled in oats. They're just kind of like nice little snacks. Um, and that product came from a franchise and it called Andrew. Andrew's the CEO's name, and he said, "Okay, you guys test it out. If it works, we'll roll it out company wide." And it's a huge success. So every company now, every location carries them, has to carry them. Best part about it was we didn't have to buy anything new. We carry bananas, we carry peanut butter, we make our own peanut butter. I mean, like everything was there already, so it was just kind of making them. So we make them in house, we bag them, and then we sell them.
Mhm.
We're doing something somewhere in our store with a coffee smoothie. We're doing a coffee flavored coffee based smoothie because we think that's a product that would sell, give us a little bit more morning business that we're trying to drive because it's quiet right now in the mornings. So, if you need your coffee and you need some protein, you can get it both in the same place.
Awesome. How about since everything is fresh, how do you guys handle just keeping things fresh, keeping product in the store? Is that a challenge, or do they have a
So,
system and a
no, not
process
really.
around
That was
that?
actually one of our questions, right? So we have a big walk-in freezer. All of our fruit that goes in our bowls and smoothies is frozen. We probably we rotate through an entire freezer worth once a week, usually. Um, so that the only thing that we really have to keep an eye on are our fresh toppers. Like we have some fresh fruit that goes on top that is not frozen. So strawberries, bananas, blueberries, for example. But we're ordering those like every 2 or 3 days. So everything's kind of fresh, but it's really easy. So,
Okay. Um,
hey man, my dog is
how,
gonna annoy us if you don't hear him barking in the background. Let
yeah,
me let him
no,
out. Hold on, give me two
sure,
seconds.
sure, sure. No worries.
All right, they're gonna try to get up here on my lap. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries. I got Hank outside the door, so he's gonna probably start scratching soon too. But so now that you've got, kind of two of these franchises, the HotWorks and the Rush Bowls, both in kind of the health and fitness space, I guess my question is, what have you learned about franchises? versus your experience, you've got, it sounded like you had a lot of years of experience in the home healthcare and in the hospital setting, and versus now the franchise space, you've got now two different franchises, but still in the same kind of industry. What do you like about the franchise model versus what you're doing previously?
Well, I mean, the franchise model is great because everything's kind of turnkey. They have contracts in place. So, like for instance, if we had gone through the idea of opening our own acai bowl shop and smoothie, we'd have had to get deals with Cisco or whoever the food provider would be. Probably wouldn't have the same rates we have. So they do like while you're paying a certain fee for the franchise name and the marketing and the stuff they're doing, you are saving money on the other end. Again, Andrew, I can't say enough about Rush Bowls in the sense that they don't they for instance, there are franchises who will take kickbacks from their vendors. It's just the nature of the business, right? He refuses to do that. So if somebody approaches him and says, "Hey, if you can make us your primary vendor, I'll give you blah, blah XYZ." He's like, "No, pass that through to my franchisees." So that's another benefit, right? He negotiate, like they're constantly negotiating or getting better rates. If there's a product that we use, like for instance, we use granola, a ton of granola. It's a hemp-based granola, no nuts, blah blah blah. But he went directly to the company who manufactures it and got us rates specific for that. So when we order it through our Cisco or our other whoever we might be ordering through, we're getting an additional discount because it's coming from the manufacturer. They just are the delivery service. So to me, you're paying for that in the franchise
Yeah.
side, where we would have had to earned it and learned all that and figured it. And that's when I say lose money for the first couple of years and
Yeah.
figure it out. But not everybody's in that position, right? You don't really want to lose money if you don't have to. But for me, that I look at if you're losing money, you better be learning, right?
Sure.
So
Well, and that's even, is it a challenge to, because you guys you're using all these fresh products, is that a challenge? Like I know with some of these other like kind of healthy food stores or smoothie kind of places, when I go in, it's like hard to keep up with demand, because everything is so fresh and it's so, and yeah, I mean, I'm guessing you guys make it all right there, correct? In
yeah,
Rush
yeah,
Bowls,
everything is
like none
blended.
of it's prepackaged. It's not like McDonald's
No,
drive-through. It's like you've got to actually go in and kind of sit and wait. Have you guys had any issues with that where
the
it's
biggest
just hard to
area
keep up with the demand?
Yeah, the biggest area where we kind of see that is with our fresh toppings. So, like for instance, we generally try to order from one location or another for our strawberries, blueberries, bananas, all at the same place, right?
Mhm.
But we've seen seasonally where like where we went through, there was a period where you couldn't get strawberries at that location, or then now you can't get blueberries. So then we have to go out and source some of that stuff from others. So we've seen that. We haven't run into an area where we haven't been able to meet the need yet.
Yeah.
Unless the only time we can't meet the need is because we made a mistake when we did inventory and we forgot to order something. That's usually what has happened, but it's been insignificant so far. We're open, what now? Almost 7 months.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. And I know mentioned earlier about your home healthcare business, just establishing that reputation, your community involvement, your referral partners. How has that played in your strategy with Rush Bowls and HotWorks, in the community, developing those relationships and that kind of, adjusting that towards your business strategy?
so it's funny you bring that up because when we get off this call, it's actually something I've got to get back into. In the healthcare world, it's very business to business marketing driven, right? Again, I go back, we talk about it. Doctors have to write it. If it's a Medicare home health referral, you got to have a doctor's prescription. So your doctor is your referral. So I kind of got away from the business to business marketing aspect. But with Rush Bowls, it's the same thing. Office caterings, whatever that might be. So really getting the word out to whether it be doctor's offices or a pharmaceutical rep who might be buying for that doctor's office. So I really, I think that I had kind of taken some stuff for granted and have not been very diligent at that. In fact, I text Michelle before this call, "Hey, after I get off with Dr. Keith, I'm going to go do some marketing. I want to go get some stuff done." Because you've got to, again, you're responsible for the success or the failure of it, regardless if it's a franchise or not. And if I'm not putting the best foot forward to try to grow this and expand the brand, again, this is the first Rush Bowls in the area, so we're also expanding the brand. Where there are other competitors out there that have a great product that have been around a lot longer than us, so we've got to break into that, branding as well.
And how do you do that differently with a HotWorks or a Rush Bowls? How is your marketing going to be different versus from your home healthcare?
So HotWorks is the probably the biggest outlier of it. Even though you could go be business to business, like I could come to your practice and you might have people you could refer. Again, that person still got to pay. They still got to get. They got to go work out and whatever. However that works, right? There's still a process to that. So there's a lot more nurturing of the relationship. Home care was really if you're doing a good job, if you've got a good reputation, if people are taking care of it, you're really listening. You can make mistakes, but you can, people give you second chances. I think Rush Bowls is somewhat similar to that, but it's weird. People get upset if you accidentally put strawberries instead of blueberries if there was a misunderstanding, like the silliest thing, right? Um,
Right.
and I think it's because we're the nature of the world we live in. Everything's fast paced, and you expect everything to be right and perfect because you don't have time to worry about it. So, really making sure that you understand what you're doing there. But I think there's a much more correlation to business with Rush Bowls and home care or healthcare than there would be with HotWorks. We've tried to do business to business, whether it be okay, you've got 10 employees, we'll give you guys a corporate rate if you can get 8 of your 10 employees to join. Again, you're still asking. That's a big ask to get 8 people to join a gym. If they already have another gym membership or they don't live in the area, they might work here but they live in Manassas. So there's challenges to that where I think if you're doing lunches or you're doing caterings and things like that, it comes down to do they like the product, and I think we have a good product, so it's a little bit easier than the gym business, I think.
For sure. What are you guys' future goals? Do you want to continue with the Rush Bowls and the HotWorks, or do you guys want to expand into kind of the next wellness industry? Is Michelle having any other dreams that we should be expecting in the near future?
Oh, no dreams. I don't think so. I hope not. We did buy all of Loudoun County for Rush Bowl, so we're set to open 5. Like I said, we signed our second lease a couple months ago in Ashburn Commons, right there on Ashburn Village and 7. And
Okay.
I hear there's a big box gym going in there as well. So that's where Planet Fitness Row House. So we kind of align with the fitness space. Works out well for us so far. Our first location's like right when you walk out the door of One Life in Brambleton. So fitness connections have been like something we really have targeted. We did start a supplement company. We just haven't been able to get it all out. So if you're interested, you can look it up. It's called Remedy Supplements, and if you go to remedysups.com, you can look. We have you can order our products now. We just haven't. Again, it ties into our whole wellness thing, and we see how we can parlay that with some of our other businesses. But it's pretty new. Website's up. We haven't talked a whole lot about it yet. So that's for me though. I want to do that. That's not Michelle. So
Well, tell me more about it. I'm upset that this is the first I'm hearing of it, Darren.
I know, I know. It's
How are
all
your supplements
American.
better, or where are you guys sourcing your supplements from?
Yeah, so they're all U.S. based. We've got agreements with a couple manufacturers, but we do. They're all they're not your traditional. So we're not doing proteins. We're not doing like multivitamins. It more falls into mushrooms. Falls into. We do some coffees that are infused with mushrooms. We have some collagen, which is going to be the closest to a protein we do, but like specific vitamins like D and K, which we like, especially right now this time of year coming here. D and K are really important. But yeah, we have I think 23 items available on the website right now that we've got sourced. We just got our labeling and everything done, so I'll tell you about it.
I love it. I love
But
it.
it falls in well with what we're trying to do currently,
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It's all connected to the health and wellness. What advice would you give somebody who is looking to start their own business or maybe even their own franchise? What's the best advice you can give them?
Be 100% committed. Don't do it if you're not ready to do it. Don't make assumptions that don't assume that it's just going to take off because it's not. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's, if you talk about fitness industry, you can talk about Orange Theory and how they've got a great name and there's one on every corner. There are plenty of them that haven't made it because of people weren't committed to their job. The same thing HotWorks. I mean, whatever it is, probably Pure Bar in our space, but restaurants, you see restaurants come and go. That's my biggest fear, right? That we bite off more than we can chew. Um, Again,
Hmm.
also maybe that's the other advice. Don't take on too much until you know you can take it on, right? So getting
Hmm.
rush bowls open was strategically timed after we are pretty much hands off on the HotWorks. We have a great general manager and a great assistant manager that really take care of everything. We spend maybe 3 to 5 hours a week in those studios, so it's pretty insignificant. Mostly that's me doing maintenance, because I'm kind of a stickler if it looks bad or something's not working, then it's kind of to me, that's your reputation. People walk in and the sauna doesn't work. When are you going to fix it, right? So like a
Yeah,
lights out, just silly stuff like that. So, but
sure.
from oversight, we have good staff, so that gives us the ability to go on and move to do something else. But yeah, be committed to it, man. You got to be committed.
And where do you feel like that maybe you and Michelle have that faith or that belief that you can take that leap of faith, like when you're gonna do a new venture, where do you think that's something that's just like born inside you, or do you think that's something you've learned along the way as you've had success or become successful? Is that something you just have more confidence with now, or is it,
Oh,
you know,
I'm never confident. I always think I'm failing. But
okay,
I think you hit the key word, and I think it means a lot to people different ways. But faith, right? You have to have faith will lead to confidence, because even when you're not confident, if you have a strong faith in what you're doing and believe in it, then confidence can come and go, right? It's the idea people say the difference between discipline and I forget what they compare it to, but like some things, if you have that, and faith to me is stronger than any of them, right? If you have a faith, then everything else will come together. You just got to make sure your faith makes you work hard.
for sure, for sure. Last question. How do you stay healthy, Daryn? What are the things you and Michelle are doing to keep yourselves body healthy? The kids, you guys have a beautiful family. What do
Thank
you
you.
and the kids do to stay healthy? You guys have been blessed with a gorgeous family. Obviously, you've been successful in business. What do you do personally just to keep yourself going, to keep yourself healthy and active?
For both me and Michelle are pretty avid weightlifters, so like not like competitive, but I think lifting weight is really important for us. And for me, I've always equated it to mental health, physical health, and then I like to eat. So for me, when I work out, I'm often on my phone in between sets, sending myself emails and notes, and I get a lot of my planning done because I try to work out in the mornings early, like or answering emails or things like that. So I kind of, I guess you that to the idea of pleasure bundling. I like to work out, but then I think that I'm a morning person. I call it morning brain. I'm way more productive if I've worked out. I'm more productive because when I'm done working out, I feel like I've already accomplished like 30% of what I need to get done work wise. At the same time, and sometimes to me, I stress out and I overthink things, and I let things run on repeat in my head until I've done it. Right? It's like, so if I can send myself an email to remind me to do something, then that's done. Or if I can get that part done in 30 seconds. So simple task things I use when I work out. Obviously the infrared sauna at home, meditation. I'm a big mushrooms person. I love mushroom products. Even, I try all kinds of stuff. There's my dogs. But yeah, we're we are open to try anything. Michelle, just recently, I have to tell you, this is interesting. You might get a kick out of this. What is it? PEMF mats that
Yeah.
so we got one, and the kids have been using it at night before they go to sleep. Like especially Piper, our 6-year-old, goes to sleep so much fast. It's the weirdest thing to me, right? You just don't ever.
Wow.
But these are like immediate changes you can see in behavior and then their well-being when she wakes up in the morning in a good mood. So
Yeah.
so at night, like on the weekends, if they're downstairs watching TV, the kids now fight over it. I want to sit on it. And
Oh, that's a
even Harper
heal.
uses it. So I guess we're kind of into alternative modalities as well. So
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Yeah. I love that the kids, I notice this in my practice because we do treat kids here that compared to adults, kids you can see instantaneously. Like they don't have the wear and tear that the adults have. What do the
Yeah.
kids say? I mean, you see it from an outside perspective, but what do the kids say themselves when they're on the mat or after they're on the mat? Do they tell, hey, Dad, I feel X, Y, or Z?
I think Harper's the best at verbalizing when we try different things. The two young ones probably just, yeah, I slept good last night, but they don't put two and two, they don't correlate it yet. But Harper will specifically like Harper, now that she's doing volleyball 4 or 5 nights a week right now, so her legs are always a little sore. So we'll use the Theragun, or we have the compression sleeves. I'm sorry, man. We have all kinds of crazy stuff at this house, but she will verbalize how much better she feels like after. Like I had to do her hamstring and like her anterior tib last night from her legs from after volleyball one time, and like so the next morning I go, how do you? She's like, yeah, no, it really helped. I could tell. So she can verbalize it, but I think it comes with an understanding of why you're doing it as well. So to be aware, I don't think the littles are aware of really what it does, but we are.
Sure.
So
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Darren. Well, thanks so much for being on. Anything coming up? You mentioned a new location. Tell our viewers, where can they find a Rush Bowls or a HotWorks or any new events that you guys have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so we have the two HotWorks. One's in Ashburn, right on the corner of Claiborne and Ashburn Farm Boulevard. The other is in South Riding in the Harris Teeter Shopping Center on Village Center Plaza. Our Rush Bowls is in Brambleton, right next to One Life Fitness. By the if anyone lives in Brambleton and they know where the Fill and Co is, we're like right across the street from Fill and Co. And like I said, the second one we're permits are in. We're just waiting for approval to start building. Hopefully, have it open probably January in Ashbrook Commons.
Awesome. All right,
But yeah, man.
everybody, check out your Rush Bowls coming to the area and the HotWorks. Thanks so much for being on, Dan. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
man. Appreciate you having me, man. Let me
For
know if you
sure,
need
for sure.
anything.